Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. I was kind of mesmerized by Mike Traina's news report there with the ability to bring back AI voices from people that are gone. Does that mean maybe Rush will host our midday shift again, huh? Well, I'll dive into that. We'll talk about that on a future show coming up soon. Top story of the day. Trump's now been in office for 100 days. How many days was that, Joe?
$1,400,600,000,000,000.
No, just 100.
2008.
No, 100.
8.4.
How would you even gauge 8.4 days? No, he's been in office for 100 days. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the last couple of weeks as we're ramping up to the first 100 days. What grade would you give him? Mine's easy. I give him a B. Not a B plus, not a B minus, not an A, not a C, not an F. I don't even do D's around here. But you can't give him an F because period, point blank, end of story, just shutting down the border was totally worth it. You can't give him an A because we actually haven't balanced the budget or cut the deficit or even solidified the Doge cut. So if they get settled, then your only real argument against him having an A would be what's going on with the tariffs. And that is like a legit concern now. But as we've said 1,000 times on this show, I bet you in 6 months or a year, we're not talking about tariffs at all. This is a negotiation tactic to create a pain point, to give them some leverage in negotiating new trade regimes with all of these countries. And I bet you we're going to start seeing some of them announced real soon. Now, the reason why you haven't seen them announced already is because once you give away the ghost on what you're expecting a trade deal to look like, that'll be leveraged by people who are still in the dark about what we're asking for a trade deal. And we may get a better deal if we hide what we've cut with other people. But here is the frustrating part. Every day of this guy's first 100 days has been negative in the eyes of the media. And I know you forgot what that's like because we just had 4 years of the media being so deferential and coddling of the presidency. They're pretending to not notice that he was a mouth-breathing window licker by the end of it. In fact, that's going to be like my second topic, where they dupes are lying to you. But yeah, stick around for that. Newsbusters keeps the count. Newsbusters.org said the negative coverage of the first 100 days of Trump's administration, this was published this morning at 7 a.m. The news was 92% negative. 92% negative. And actually, that is just from the network news. That's just from ABC, CBS, and NBC. Now, the numbers don't change a whole lot if you add in CNN and MSNBC because their viewership is not only smaller than Fox News, but Fox News' viewership is less than that of ABC, CBS, and NBC. Actually, each one of those gets about the same amount of people as a Fox News. But when you combine all those up, ABC, CBS, NBC, they average 19 million viewers in this first quarter. So they are the most widely watched news programs in the country. To give you an idea of where Fox News is often at, around 4 million. Bad day, 3 million. Good day, 5. So not only is it more than Fox News, it's multiples of Fox News. It's about 4 to 5 times the size of Fox News, and 92% of it was negative. Now, here's how it's going to be couched in the media. Let me give you Rachel Maddow from last night. Man, she's such a good source of sound bites. I feel like I'm cheating using her. But she's going to come out with her 100 days and the reason why she thinks she did bad. And what makes her a hack is you already know what she's going to say. She's going to say it's bad. Not only is she going to say it's bad, everything's bad. There's not one good aspect of it. There's not one shred of evidence that you can find that Trump did anything that one person would like. And if that's your take on this, then you're a dishonest hack. Well, let's go through this here. You're going to love it.
Today's yet another day of polling that confirms what is now validated by every major poll that has been done, heading toward the 100 days benchmark this week.
Listen to that. Validated by every poll that's been done. Everybody agrees that everything he's done is unliked by everyone. That's a ridiculous stance, but she tries to make her case. Listen to this.
New Washington Post, ABC News Ipsos poll. Do you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump? Disapprove by a 16-point margin. Do you approve or disapprove of Elon Musk? Ooh, look at that. Disapprove by a 22-point margin. Yikes.
Yeah, so approve or disapprove. Now, it's not even close because 6 months ago, when we all had to go to the ballot box, more people approved of Trump than not. So, yeah, you've been bashing him with 92% negative coverage for the last 6 months. You're going to get a few people to come off of their starting block there. And why Elon Musk is even included in this makes no sense to you, but it's part of the narrative building. You know, they've got to have their villains. They've got to have their Skeletor and their Destro.
Do you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump's handling of immigration? Disapprove by a 7-point margin. Do you approve or disapprove of Trump's managing of the federal government? Disapprove by a 15-point margin. Is Donald Trump looking out for the interests of average Americans? No, by a 17-point margin. Do you approve of Trump deporting international students who have criticized U.S. policy in the Middle East? No, disapprove by a 20-point margin. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the economy?
Okay, she does this for another minute, and then she has a big finale here where she explains, man, everything is just bad for this guy.
In public opinion terms, he has had the most disastrous first 100 days of any president since the dawn of modern polling. No president has ever botched the first 100 days more badly than Donald Trump has botched it.
Everything's bad. Everything's terrible.
And that's true not just for his approval rating generally and how people
Everybody
feel about
hates
it.
him.
It's for every single thing you ask the American public about in terms of what he has done.
Really?
Do you like any of it? No.
Every single thing that you can ask the American public about, they hate it all. There's not one thing, one question you can ask anyone in the American public that would get approval. Really? Really? Did you ask them if the people, if they approve of cutting taxpayer funding for the global warming coloring book in Malaysia? I bet you they would approve of that. What about if they approve of men and women's sports? You asked him about that and his stance on that one. What if you just reframed your immigration question? How do you think he's handling immigration? And said, well, what do you prefer? 300,000 illegals coming across our border every month or 7,000? What do you think they would choose? Do you think they would choose the number under Trump or the last number that we had under Biden? What if does Rachel Maddow's poll ask if they approve of finding 0 baggies of cocaine from the president's son in the White House? Is that in your polling questions? Does Rachel Maddow's poll ask the people if they approve of, I don't know, the Gulf of America? I know that's not important, but I'm sure you could find many things that pollsters could ask the American people where they would say something positive about Trump. She just can't admit it. And that's what a hack is. You just saw full hackery, unadulterated, on display. Does Rachel Maddow find it suspicious that every poll that you guys paid for came back with the answer you wanted? Did it bother you that all of the poll questions were asked from your angle and not my angle? And contrary to what she's saying now, if we rolled back the clocks to February, when so many of these polls were above water, how do you approve of his handling of the economy? Stock market at all-time high. How do you approve of his handling of immigration? How do you approve of his job overall? Those numbers were all above water in February. Did Rachel Maddow declare his presidency a success when the numbers were in his favor? No, she was still coming up with headlines every day about how he's a failure. She's going to say that whether the polls are up or the polls are down, whether the economy's up or the economy's down. It doesn't matter. She's a hack. So I'm going to ask you, what grade do you give Trump? I give him a B, solid B, and you probably can't shake me off of that. But we'll ask our next guest, Victoria Churchill with Young Voices, that. But I want to hear from you too, especially if you're giving him an A or an F. You can still call in if you're giving a B or C, but especially if you give an A or an F, I want to hear you defend your point there. Defend your grade. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It is now 100 days for Trump. In fact, he has a little shindig coming up later today. I don't know if we call it a party, but it's an event commemorating the first 100 days of Trump. Now, I'm sure if you ask Donald Trump how he would grade his first 100 days, he'd be like, A+. Everyone knows it. I know it. You know it. Everyone agrees. Believe me. If you ask Rachel Maddow, terrible F. We just heard her explanation. Everything, it's fire and brimstone. This is probably the fourth level of Dante's Inferno hell. And the truth is going to be somewhere in between. I give him a B. What do you give him? 800-288-9227. I'm going to hear from some callers after my next guest, Victoria Churchill's back on from Young Voices. Hey, Victoria. Welcome back to the James Show. And let's hear your grade. Donald Trump's first 100 days. I give him a B. What does Victoria give him?
Yeah, I think a B plus A minus is probably where he's at. You know, he's taken some significant actions, fulfilling promises that he made on the campaign trail, but he's obviously still got a ways to go. But of course, this is kind of the classic measure, the first 100 days. It's a great way to look at the first few months of a presidency, but you also have to remember that things in Washington take a while.
Well, I also feel like it's really hard to grade someone on the first 100 days when one of the things that we're going through now, the tariff situation, is something that could be resolved within the next few weeks. And I think that would bump him up to maybe an A minus in my book.
Yeah, you know, the tariffs are definitely something that a lot of even longtime conservative Republican groups and individuals have expressed kind of some discomfort with in D.C., but you know, obviously the administration's play is that these are growing pains. These are necessary for doing things like bringing back American manufacturing. And, you know, if you look at, for example, job numbers in those segments, that is already the case. You know, they've brought back some construction jobs. They've brought back just manufacturing jobs, mining and logging jobs, as well as seeing some historic investment in the U.S. from both foreign governments and private companies. I think the latest number out of the White House was about $5 trillion. And so, you know, if you listen to the White House, if their intent is to bring jobs and creation of products back from overseas to the United States, then they would probably be considering this to be a win.
And yeah, the number is $5 trillion. The White House did a press conference, or I should say Carolyn Levitt went through a laundry list of investments that added up to about $5 trillion. And that was just right before the James Show started. So you're kind of on top of that. So explain this to me, Victoria Churchill. You give him an A minus. I give him a B. We think he's doing such a good job. Why are so many of his poll numbers underwater? His approval rating, his rating on the economy, his rating on immigration, et cetera.
Well, I mean, as we've talked about before, the mainstream media will write about what they see to be the truth, regardless of how far removed that is from reality. And so, you know, for example, on things like immigration, President Obama conducted millions of deportations during his term, but the mainstream media, you know, conveniently for them, decides to forget about that because they have always painted Donald Trump as a very aggressive person on the front of immigration. And so, you know, media's memory in Washington seems to be quite shallow.
Is there any chance that we can get, like maybe the network news, ABC, CBS, NBC, to stop being such hacks and return to at least an attempt of being down the road? Or are we just going to have to watch those things slowly grind themselves out of business?
Well, I think that they are grinding themselves out of business, as you mentioned, the major news channels. Of course, again, I believe we've talked about this before, kind of the aspect of the new media, independent creators, and of course, these are people that the administration has given a platform to. I think just yesterday, they were doing a special new media briefing for a lot of online personalities. But, you know, the other thing to notice here is that with the mainstream media, they're seeing departures even from people within their own ranks going out and establishing, you know, whether that's Substack pages or YouTube channels, podcasts, things like that. And so the frustration, I think, goes much more beyond just ideological bounds that, you know, a lot of people that have worked in mainstream media see the faults with it. And another event that was, of course, just this weekend in Washington, D.C., the White House Correspondents' Dinner. One of the award winners from that dinner was Alex Thompson of Axios. And, he himself, he got an award for his coverage of the Biden administration, but even in his speech, he has gone around and said that, he and his colleagues should have done a better job calling out the problems with the final days of the Biden administration.
Did I see you had an article that showed up on Real Clear Politics talking about independent workers?
Yeah, I did. Yep, that was earlier this month, I believe.
Well, do I need to go click through that headline, or what am I missing there?
Well, it actually goes, I think, pretty well along with this idea of new media because the idea of it is that people don't need to have 9-to-5 jobs, W-2 employment, that they can go out and create things on their own and make money from that. And, like I said, obviously this plays very well into the media, but this is another win, in my view, of the Trump administration, is that they have some folks in the Department of Labor, the Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez-Ramer, she's one that's kind of been back and forth on this issue, but they have an undersecretary, I call him out by name, Keith Sonderling. He's been great on the issue of allowing independent workers to continue to, have contracts, and in cases where they don't really want to be classed as employees. So that's one of those niche issues, which I didn't think got, kind of enough coverage. And so actually with Young Voices, I was part of their social mobility fellowship, and I was able to write that up and illuminate.
Totally agree. Love it. Good work, Victoria Churchill. We know her from Young Voices, but now she's showing up in New York Post, Real Clear Politics, and The James Show. Thank you for being on the show again, Victoria.
Thank you so much. Always great to chat with you.
All right, there she goes. So I'm asking you what I just asked Victoria. What grade would you give Trump? I have some good answers on hold, but a couple lines are open. I'd love to hear from you. I give him a B. And I don't really understand how you could give him a solid A or a solid F, but I'd be willing to negotiate with you. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Your call's next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I just want to get ahead of this because Donald Trump's going to make some statements about his first 100 days, so we'll talk about it before you hear about it from him. And I'm asking you the question, what would you grade Trump 2.0's first 100 days? I'm giving him a B, to be determined. This could go down to a C, maybe even an F. It could go up to an A. But as far as the first 100 days go, this is all we know. This is all we have to grade him on. I think it's a solid B. I think I could maybe give him maybe an A minus if he hadn't already raised the debt ceiling $2 trillion and did the continuing resolution that keeps spending at Biden levels through September. So I feel like he's already given up like 1/4 of his presidency to the previous agenda. But I do like the border being closed. I do like the things that he's doing, whether it's officially his job or not, talking about men and women's sports. And, there's about 4 or 5 other things that you could just go down the list and be like, okay, well, yeah, that's pretty good. I feel fairly positive about that. I like the fact that his son's not a cokehead with a bunch of crazy videos out there that I find embarrassing. It doesn't have weird employment records with oligarchs in Ukraine and China. I like the fact that he went through and Doge made some cuts to USAID and the Department of Education. Now, if that gets codified, maybe his grade moves up to a B plus or an A minus. But right now, I think it's a solid B. I don't know how you could give him an A or an F, though. But I'm open. You can try and convince me. 800-288-9227. Donna, Dallas, what grade would you give Trump on his first 100 days?
I know, I'm nuts, but I give him an A plus just for being in the White House.
Just for winning that?
Being there, just for sitting in the chair and being there and making us feel safe. Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing, and I think it's all going to work out in the end, and it's a little scary right now. I just know the man knows what he's doing, so I feel good that he's there.
Well, I don't think you mean just being there, but I think what the fact that he is there means the border got closed. There didn't have to be any legislation passed through Congress.
Well,
there didn't have to be any national reckoning or debate or, government shutdown or some sort of compromise resolution or anything. It really was just the fact that the right president is in that office that problem got solved. And there's probably about 10 or 12 little things like that we don't even know about because it wouldn't get reported.
Correct. I agree. But we know what he's done, and I know people are a little panicked about some of the tariffs and all that. I just think the man knows exactly what he's doing. I think this was planned in his mind. So it just gives me comfort. I feel like he knows what he's doing, and that says a whole lot over our last president.
Well, what would it take?
We're pretty sure didn't know what he was doing.
Donna, what would it take for you to drop that grade down to at least a B?
I don't know. I mean, right this minute, the stock market's back up. There's a lot of positive things that people were nervous about. I know my husband's scared to death, but I'm just not worried about it.
Well, that degrades your credibility if you can't admit a scenario in which you wouldn't give him an A.
I can't think of one. I'm going to put it that way. Right this minute.
Fair enough. No, hey, all right. That's exactly. I asked for your opinion. You gave it to me. Good call, Donna. Thank you very much. If you want to be next, 800-288-9227. The question is, what grade would you give Trump on his first 100 days? This is Andy in Burleson. What grade do you give him? Andy. I hear nothing. All right, we'll skip out of that one. Joe in Southlake. What grade would you give Trump?
I'm giving an A, James.
Okay. Explain yourself.
Well, first off, he inherited Ukraine and Russia. He inherited the economy, and it took 4 years or more than that. He inherited the border issue, which was a national security issue, labeling the cartels as terrorists. That should have been done decades ago, James. As far as codifying these resolutions, different things he wants to have done, that is up to Congress. And he's already put it out there. And they are fighting amongst themselves because there's people just like you as far as spending. They don't want to spend this and that. But what he did, if anything, that's so important that all of this could be pretty much irrelevant to a degree is national security. Being a former United States Marine, what he has done, not only saving money, millions, hundreds of billions in every state from doing what he's doing, and finding out all the fraud and Doge, just like you mentioned. But that investigation is still coming to pass, and they're going to dig up a lot of dirt on that, and they know that. That is part of it. And just for the fact, Vince, if we had an attack inside this because of the millions, an army was led into this country. 2 million we have no idea who they are. And for us to sit here and act like we're going to worry about a tariff is something that the Democrats back in the early 90s, you yourself were very good. And I brought this up on another show, on Vince's show I was on, and I brought this up, in which I didn't mention your name, but you were the one who was very good about bringing all that up. There is so much that these Democrats, they know that they have dug up as far as the fraudulent spending, where the polls are. And as far as the polling, and I've heard it from Sean Hannity, I've heard it from Vince, I've heard it, I think, from another one, is that Trafalgar, I haven't mentioned, they are the most accurate when it comes to, because if I'm not mistaken, they don't ask you directly what you think. They ask what others around you and family think about it. That's how they get theirs, and they have been more accurate and at top of the line when as far as coming to polling. But I respect your thinking. But if we don't have national security, we've got nothing, because what are we going to be if our
Real quick, Joe,
infrastructure is damaged?
What would it take? What would it take for you to move him down to a B? Is there anything that could take you off of giving him an A?
No, because the Democrats.
You don't see how that degrades your credibility, though?
No. You want to know why? Because they're using the same playbook. They're doing the same thing, trying to incite riots, trying to incite civil unrest. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, you don't have to apologize for disagreeing. I'm out of time here. But that was a great call, Joe in Southlake. 800-288-9227. We'll continue. Got some other good callers, and got a good Facebook message here where people are disagreeing with my grade on Trump because I give him a B. What do you give him? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, homeowners, on a long enough time scale, you are going to have to replace that roof. And if it's been more than 5 years, you're kind of getting into the hot zone. If it's been more than 10 years, now it's just a matter of time. Now you look outside, you see it's all gray, it's all cloudy, and there's more storms coming. You darn right they are. It's not going to stop until summer. So if you have any suspicion that your roof might be compromised in any way, if you're missing a shingle, if you have one little piece of flashing that's sticking up, if you have some questionable wood that looks like it's rotting in your gables, call Blue Ribbon Roofing, because you need someone you can trust to go out there and check it out. James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. Here's the best part. It's free. The roof inspection costs you absolutely nothing. Now, if they find something wrong, then we'll talk about avenues to fix it. And if you need some help with financing or dealing with your insurance company, they go through that with everybody. They've been doing this for over 30 years, and they're quite comfortable helping you out with that. But even if you don't need to have anything done, you'll go out there, someone will get a look, take some pictures, and give you some paperwork. So if the storm does come through and damage your roof, you'll have an easier time dealing with the insurance next time around because you've set a baseline and you can prove, see, on this day, everything was fine. This storm happened, and now this is what it looks like. So it not just catches problems right now, it will help you when you inevitably have to catch a problem with that roof in the future. And if you mention that you heard it on the James Show and you do need a new roof, they give you a free ridge vent ventilation upgrade. So go to blueribbondfw.com. Deal with a local family-run business with John, Tish, and Trevor. Go to blueribbondfw.com. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Later today, Donald Trump's going to go out and have a little event celebrating his first 100 days. He's going to tell you it's amazing. It's the best it's ever been. Rachel Maddow, I was just playing you earlier in the show. It's the worst it's ever been. What do you think? I give him a solid B. He's done a lot of good things. There's been a few shortcomings that prevent me from being too enthusiastic about it, raising the debt ceiling $2 trillion, extending the spending levels of Biden through September. We still don't have the Epstein list. So I do have some complaints, but they're not good enough to knock him into an F for sure, and really not even a C. I think the tariff stuff is convulsions right now. But look, I get this comment a lot too, and someone said it when I was talking about it earlier. When I referred to the tariffs, they're just a negotiating tactic. Eric says, LOL, this is on Facebook. LOL, a negotiating tactic. That's not what Trump said, but you keep licking Trump's boots, boy. Well, I know that's not what Trump said. It doesn't work as a negotiating tactic if you admit that's what it is. So if you say, hey, I'm going to put 145% tariff on all your imports until we can get a better trade deal, but I'm only going to do it for 90 days. And if you don't acquiesce in that time, I will give up and we will resume normal trade policy. Then the other side has no incentive whatsoever to negotiate. If you don't understand that, go read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then go read Art of the Deal, and you'll see exactly what he's doing. He spells it out. Am I going to have to go pull the audiobook part of that? Because I realize I'm giving away the sauce when I say that. But I heard that from someone that was on the right too. Someone, who was that? So Eric came at me from, I don't know, from an anti-Trump point of view. Chuck came at me. Here it is. Chuck says on Facebook Messenger, hi, James. I so want to call in my grade C-. He's done great with everything except tariffs. He does not understand. He thinks a foreign country pays, but he's wrong. So a U.S. company buys widgets from China due to EPA restrictions. They can't be manufactured in USA. So the container arrives at U.S. port, gives to U.S. Customs. Widget has a code scanned, and the U.S. company is charged that tariff. It is crushing, and China is hurting because we don't buy from them. It's a tax on U.S. companies that's not sustainable. He doesn't get it. We know it's not sustainable. We know he gets it. He has to create a pain point to give them an incentive to negotiate. And if he didn't create a pain point, then they have no incentive to negotiate. I think some people are just being a little obstinate on that. 800-288-9227. Back to the phones. A lot of good ones over here. Only one line open, so if you're going to call, do it quick. Gary in Newark, New Jersey, or is there Newark, Texas?
That'll be Newark, Texas, sir. How you doing, James?
Oh, did you say New York, Texas?
Newark, Newark.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one. Where's Newark?
It's Newark. It's not Newark. Newark is in New Jersey.
Well, I know, but that's what the Garrett put on the phone screening thing
But
here.
that's why you spell it. But I live in Texas, so it's called Newark.
Well, that's way better, Gary. What grade do you give Trump?
Well, I give him a solid B. I live in a small city. We don't have any police department or law, and I can go to bed and feel safe when I do. All these scumbags that come from over in Venezuela, they're hiding. They're not trying to find a place to live and take over. They're trying to find a place to hide. So if they're not around me, I feel much safer, and he's getting them all picked up and shipped out of here like he said he would. Everything he told me he would do to get my vote, he's done so far. He told me it's going to be rough, and it is rough. And I'm going to stick with him till the very end. And a solid B. You can't get me off of it.
Well, yeah, and okay, I see where Newark is now, up there by Rome. I've actually heard of Rome before.
But not Italy, but
yeah. Well, Italy is down there by Waxahachie, sir. Now, jokes aside here, there are very different experiences that Americans have based on your geography. When you just said this, safety's first, and you live in a crime-free city. So do I. Out in Buck Tussle, we don't have any crime either, but some people are scared to go outside. And so, I mean, we must just be seeing completely different things on TV.
Well, we just don't have those people in our city, and they know what they do. We're going to turn them in. If we don't turn them in, we'll probably be burying them.
Yeah, totally understood. Well,
we don't need them.
To put some stats on that, Gary and Newark, there's something like north of 70% of the counties in America on any given year have either 1 or 0 murders. And, we would like to say 0, but there's so many like exceptions to where like there's a husband who kills his wife, like a murder suicide, or some crazy mom drowns her kid in a bathtub. So you have almost like exceptions that prove the rules. Where for most of us, like over 2/3 of the country, live in a place that just doesn't have murder. We just don't have car thefts. We just don't have so many of these other problems that you see concentrated in just even medium-sized cities, much less big cities. You know, like when I grew up, I didn't see a homeless person unless we drove into Dallas, unless we drove like an hour and a half west on an interstate. We might see a homeless person, but we may just have a few now out in Bug Tussle, but it's not the same at all. Vastly different experience. And you have to ask yourself why. We live under the same laws. We live under the same governance. We live under the same federal and state laws, at least. How is it really that different? 800-288-9227. We'll continue grading Trump's first 100 days next. I give him a B. What do you say? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. We are just grading Trump, and don't hold back. I want you to be honest. Even if you don't think it's popular, even though you think it might hurt somebody's feelings, what grade do you give him on his first 100 days? Because he's going to tell you later this afternoon that he gets an A+, probably the greatest first 100 days compared to any president in the history of America ever. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it, believes me, but he talks in hyperbole. Let's all calm down and don't listen to the media either. Rachel Maddow says everything that he's done, everyone agrees that every aspect of his presidency has been a huge, horrible failure. Okay, so that's not real believable either. Where is the truth? I give him a B. What do you give him? I think he's done more good than bad. I definitely think he's better than another Joe Biden term or what Kamala would have done. I don't think that's even on the table. But we still don't have the Epstein list. He still raised the debt ceiling. We do have convulsions from tariffs, although I think that could get smoothed out in a matter of weeks, if not months. So I see a path for him to either progress and maybe in the next 100 days or a year from now, he'll be up in A territory, maybe even A+ territory. Or if he doesn't get some of this resolved and it keeps going the wrong way, he could go down to a C, maybe even a C-. What do you think? 800-288-9227. Let's go to Catherine. This is Catherine in Fort Worth. What grade do you give Trump's first 100 days?
A B+.
Explain yourself, Catherine.
Okay. I'm like many of your callers. I think he's doing great. However, and the tariff thing, and I have 2 degrees, but I wouldn't be crazy enough, let's be blunt, to weigh in on that because I don't know enough about it. And if I don't know enough about tariffs, I know what they are, but if I don't know his plan and the strategy he's got going, then I feel pretty sure 95% of the public that's weighing in on it, that they don't know either, you know? So I'm not worried about that. That's going to work itself out. But here is the reason for the B+, James.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Are you there?
Yeah. Yes, Catherine.
He was elected to send the illegals back home. There was no discussion of the criminal illegals. We thought when we elected him by mass numbers, we were saying get the illegals out of our little towns and our big towns and our schools and our stores and our Medicare people and every Social Security, everything. We wanted the illegals from anywhere to be sent back home, and that he twisted it all around. I don't remember there ever being discussion of the criminal illegal aliens. And either he's bowing down to the Democrats or I can't imagine him taking a payoff. But something has gotten in the way of what happens to deport these people. I don't care if it's the little old lady in your hometown. She's on 3 different programs with my government. She gets every darn thing she does free. And in the meantime, is disrespectful of Americans and what we have here. So they need to go. They need to go, and I'm a Christian, and it says in Romans you're supposed to do what God said for your country, do the best for your country. Everybody has a place to be on this earth. God gave everybody a place. And we're in ours, and they need to go back to theirs.
Got it. All right. I think you explained your B+ very well. Thank you very much, Catherine in Fort Worth. Maybe 3 points. Let's go to Farrell in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP. What grade do you give Trump's first 100 days?
Well, I got to give him a solid A based on 100 days.
Okay. Why A?
He's taken action to do what he said he's going to do. He eliminated the woke baloney, right?
Some of it, sure.
He's deporting criminal illegal aliens like we all want, right? He's trying to help our economy with DOGE, cut spending, right? He's talking about relieving our tax burden. I mean, I don't know, James, I heard your points, and I can't disagree with them. This is all friendly, right? But, man, I think your B is kind of weak. When you compare him to other presidents we've had in modern history and the mess he's inherited, how can you not, at this point, give him an A? Now, right? Congress has to do their
Well,
job.
I can explain that. I don't give him an A just because the 18 presidents before him were worse on some of these issues. They just get worse than a B. And the primary driver of my B is really economics, and it's really the debt and the deficit. He's already raised the debt ceiling $2 trillion for that continuing resolution that happened a couple months ago. He continued the last Biden spending plan, which is the most inflated, overblown, highest deficit plan that we've ever had. He just extended that to September. So his whole first year is going to be spending on Biden's worst spending levels. And the thing that is kicking all of us in the teeth the most is inflation. And until we balance the budget, or at least cut the deficit in more than half, get it under control or get it somewhere close to balance, we're still going to be getting just pummeled, absolutely pummeled by inflation, by the weakening of our dollar. Every year that we have 3% inflation, we're all getting a 3% pay cut. So over the last 3 years, you can kind of compound that down. We've all had a 10% pay cut. If you count what we had under Joe Biden, that little spike, we all had about a 15% pay cut. And so we can't continue that. I don't want another 15% pay cut. That's at least a B.
A junkie can't quit cold turkey. You got methadone, you got
disagree.
You got all this.
Junkies quit cold turkey all the time, sir.
Well, maybe not the best analogy, but do you honestly think that right off the bat that those measures are going to work? I mean, don't you economically have to have a solid plan so that the whole freaking country doesn't come to a meltdown? I mean, we're all to some degree strung out on debt, are we not? And it's not going to get reversed overnight. I think we need to give him a chance.
This comes back up at the end of September, and if he solves it then, and if he puts his foot down and becomes a little more fiscally conservative because he's totally fiscally liberal right now, then maybe his grade can move up to an A. I'm not condemning him to a forever B. Do I have time for one more? Not really. All right, you other great people on hold, stick around. You'll be next. Or if you want to jump in, 800-288-9227. What grade do you give Trump's first 100 days? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. How would you grade Trump 2.0 in his first 100 days? There is a podium that it has a camera on it that's sitting in the bottom corner of Fox News because we're expecting him to come out and make some remarks on his first 100 days. He's in Michigan today. And this speech is supposed to be specifically to commemorate and address his first 100 days. What do you want to bet? He's going to say his first 100 days were not only good or above average, it was the best ever that any president has ever had in the history. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it, believe me. So that's what he's going to say. Not a real reliable source for nuance. But on the other side of the token, I was playing Rachel Maddow earlier in the show where she was just saying the opposite, and it was even less believable. Everyone thinks that everything that Trump's done is terrible, and everyone agrees that this is the worst president possible and the worst first 100 days possible. Like, come on, can we have a real discussion about it? And I think we've been doing a better job here on the James Show with the callers covering this than what you've seen on TV. So what do you think? 800-288-9227. I really want to hear from someone who says F. Have we got an F in there yet, Garrett? This is Amy in Dallas. What grade would you give him?
Well, I think I'd have to probably give him about a C-.
Oh, so that's the closest F we've had so far.
Yes, and it could be close to a D. It depends upon what he'll do.
Okay, so first off, what keeps him from being an F if you're that low?
Well, so far he hasn't made the cuts. I work for the Early Head Start program, and if he makes the cuts, it'll have to be an F. If he decides not to push that through legislation or it doesn't pass in the Senate and the House, if they're going to make cuts to Early Head Start, then my rating will go up to an A.
Oh my goodness, that is so personally biased there because I'm a person who you're going to hate me. Please don't hate me. No, you will. I don't think we should have ever started Head Start. I think Head Start is one of the first things we could cut and not have and have just a minimum amount of consequences. Head Start is something that's come up in talk radio for more than the 20 years that I've been doing it, and every time it's studied, they say that Head Start will show some improvement in the kids, but up past fourth grade, you can't tell which kids went to Head Start and which ones didn't. So I've always thought that it was just a kind of a naked expansion of government control over your kiddos before kindergarten, and the results that we've gotten for those dollars just aren't there.
I think that probably goes to not understanding exactly what the Early Head Start program does for children and families. We're not a daycare program, of course. I mean, we're an actually educationally based program, but we're also a social service based program. We've got to be able to continue helping children and families that are at or below the federal poverty level. And that's exactly what Early Head Start is. We don't service children that are above that are making middle to upper class income or wages.
Okay, but Amy, you can say that, but if it really was of educational import, then you would have some noticeable difference in the standardized testing results from the kids who participated in Head Start and their lower socioeconomic peers who did not.
You have more kids that are socially balanced, though, so you might not be having exactly where you need them academically to be, but no kid is exactly where they need to be academically. I mean, the United States scores way below where most countries score educationally anyway. So if you're looking at what they're doing, I mean, socially, it's preparing those kids to be in school. I mean,
I look at what they're doing and I look at what their intent is, but I also look at the results, and the results just aren't on your side. And even if it was, I would still be against it because I would say, can't we do this at the state or local level? Why does this have to be a federal program? And you don't have an answer for that.
I guess I don't.
No, that's all right.
Know that I'm not upset with you. I love your show. I love to watch the show. I love to listen to it. So I'm just totally, completely for the Early Head Start program. I've worked for the program for 25 years. I see what it can do for children and families.
Well, I bet you there's a lot of people out there who agree with you. So don't be shy about disagreeing with me. And for one thing, I'm wrong on a semi-regular basis. I get a lot of stuff wrong, especially as a husband. I get a lot of stuff wrong, like, oh, what do you mean you didn't like your Christmas present? But the grade for you hinges solely on the program that employs you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
Okay.
pretty good Trump supporter. Have the Trump.
You're not happy about closing down the
border.
border. You're not happy about
Oh, I'm
deportations. You're not.
extremely happy about closing
Okay.
the border, deportation. I'm all for that. I mean, I think we could be doing a little bit better on inflation right now. I'd like to be getting some of those prices down a little bit better, but I think good things come to those that wait, and I'm patient and I'll wait. But yeah, I mean, so maybe my colleague's a little bit biased. I don't know. So there you
Okay.
go.
Well, Amy, she gets 2 points. She gets the football equivalent of a safety for having the bravery to call in and just straight up disagreeing with me and then putting through listening to my rant on why you should get fired and your program should be shut down. Oh, my goodness. I feel like such a bad person sometimes, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Let's do Kevin and no, Alex has been waiting forever. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex. Alex in Dallas, what grade would you give him?
I would say B minus.
Okay. Why not an A?
Because I don't know if his rhetoric or what he says brings a lot of insecurity to the job market, a victim to being laid off. And I know he's talked about bringing manufacturing jobs, but I worked hard for my degree. I don't want to work in a factory.
What's
So
your degree in?
That's why. Business administration.
Business administration? Well, you could be like a supervisor at a factory. How about that?
No, I understand what you're saying, but I just believe that the way he says things just brings a lot of insecurity, and that's why.
Well, I don't think it's just what he says. I think the fact that he actually turns the tariffs on and then he turns them off and then he turns some of them on and then he exempts a few of them on the side. It's not just his rhetoric that's caused these convulsions. It's, millions of businessmen have to watch the moves on an almost daily basis instead of knowing what the regime's going to be in 90 days or a year from now, and they can just put their head down and pursue it. So some of this is just the natural convulsions that we can all expect from the tariff negotiations that, we're really not worried about tariffs. We're really trying to get better trade deals, something a little more reciprocal going forward. And I understand that a lot of people don't like that, but that's one thing that can be gone in 90 days. It can be gone in 6 months. Let me ask you the converse of that. So you give him a B, maybe a B minus. Why not lower? Why not like a C or an F? What has he done that you like?
I do like the border security. I do like that he wants to negotiate our tariffs so that we could turn our debt around. But I would give an F if we continue to grow our debt ceiling.
Okay, love it. Thank you very much. That is Alex in Dallas. We're getting a wide swath of opinions here. Good stuff. If you want to get in line, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I gave him a B. A lot of people disagree, and they're going to try and explain their case coming up next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we told you we'd go to Trump as soon as he started talking, and we did. He's in Harrison Township. I'm going to continue listening on the break. If he says anything that I think you'll be interested in, I'll pass it along when we get back. And our next guest coming up is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. She's an immigration attorney that's going to get you all caught up on the very sticky immigration questions that are in the headlines today. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Returning to the show is immigration attorney Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. She is based here in Texas and is going to help us make sense of some of these immigration stories in the headlines today. Welcome back, Kate.
Hi.
And I would also like to say, if Kate says something that I disagree with, you don't have to email me. I know, but I know, right? People get shocked. Oh my goodness, y'all disagree. What happens? Happens all the time. So Kate, you're a good person to talk to in the light of these stories where the headlines make it sound like we're just taking minor children and sending them to other countries. But the 3 citizens that were deported with their moms out of Louisiana. So the situation around that has a lot of people asking, what are the options for an illegal immigrant who faces deportation, but they also have a child in their care that is a citizen?
They do have the option to decide whether to take them with, to take the child back to their home country or to leave the child here in the care of someone else. I think what is egregious about these instances that are coming out in the media is that, for example, there was one 4-year-old child who was receiving, treatment for stage 4 cancer here in the United States. And then there was another child who's a 2-year-old whose father is here in the United States, and he didn't agree with the decision to have the child deported. So I think in both of these instances, what it highlights is the swiftness with which the Trump administration is carrying out deportations. And this is, a theme in a lot of these other actions that they're taking where they're not slowing down for, what we would call due process or a court proceeding. And then it results in these, mistaken, upsetting, egregious situations that could be resolved if we just had a little more slowness and caution going on.
Well, so you say the problem is the Trump administration is acting with great swiftness, but I already support the program. You don't have to sell it to me, Kate.
Well, I know that some people are going to say, well, that's a great thing. What I can tell you here, I'm an immigration lawyer. I've been working with people for 20 years. There are a lot of people who have an opportunity. They have legal status. They have a case pending. They're doing everything the right way. They're married to a U.S. citizen, or other compelling factors like their kid might die if they don't continue to get the treatment here, et cetera. So there's a reason that we have in this country the rule of law and the judicial process, and it isn't great. I will tell you up close and personal. It is not a great thing if we allow the administration to just railroad over what this country stands for, which is the rule of law and due process. And I know that people think, well, it's just the immigrants, they're not coming for us. The truth is this has happened already to U.S. citizens. The Trump administration has said they're going after U.S. citizens next. And it's concerning in and of itself with the immigrants, but it's also concerning about what it means this administration is willing to do to other people too.
So what options are there for illegals that you would recommend? If you're an illegal and you get picked up, you're facing deportation, and you have a legal citizen child, what would you tell them to do as their attorney?
Well, the first thing I would do is if someone's in a process, I would really advise them to already have an immigration lawyer. And I don't know whether these cases that we're talking about, whether these people were represented or not, but I do know that I read in the news that they all were detained going to a regular check-in, right, where they were complying, they were going to the check-in. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people need to understand right now is that even if you're doing everything the right way, you filed the application, you're going to the appointments, et cetera, you still can get detained. And so it's really important to have a pre-existing relationship with a lawyer who knows everything about you, and they can respond if there's an emergency. And then the second thing is if you've got a U.S. citizen kid and you're in the United States and you're undocumented, really having a plan for what will happen if I get detained. Do I want the child to go with me? Is my spouse or ex-partner in agreement with that? And if they're not, does a family court case need to be filed? I mean, these are things that people need to be thinking about before the emergency, ideally, because as we know, everything moves really, really fast once someone gets detained and it's hard to respond.
All right, let me change my hypothetical a little bit. Let's say I'm an illegal immigrant here in America. I have a citizen child. But I want to voluntarily go back to my country. I don't know if I got a job offer down there, or maybe mom's sick and I want to go take care of her. What do I do in that instance? There's got to be extra complications with our citizenship mismatch.
No, that child born in the United States would be a dual citizen of their home country, presumably the parent's home country and the United States. So generally leaving with a child is not the difficulty unless there's a custody agreement over that child. So let's say mom and dad have separated and there's a custody arrangement. Well, the family court system in the United States is not going to permit a child to go out of country in that situation. But presuming the parents are in alignment, leaving with the child does not tend to be difficulty as long as there's a valid passport from some country.
All right, I'll let you go so you can go back to watching the rest of the Trump speech just now. But this is Kate Lincoln Goldfinch, an immigration attorney on the James Show. You can find her online, Lincoln Goldfinch, like the bird, law. Right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Thank you, Kate. She just says the bird thing most of the time. But yeah, Kate Lincoln Goldfinch. Coming up next, we're in this interesting scenario where the media is apologizing. Oh, whoa, we're so embarrassed that we got duped by the Biden administration and his mental condition. No. You weren't duped. You saw what we saw. You were lying. That's coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yay, let's go. Is it Friday yet? Oh, it's still Thursday? Tuesday? Oh, man. Are you ever in that situation where, like, if I stop at the gas station and I go in and buy something, it'll cost me whatever the Snickers cost plus a $30 overdraft fee? So you're just stuck with nothing for the rest of, well, till the first. When's the first? Thursday? All right, so I'll be happy again on Friday. Yay. Isn't that exciting? All right, next up on the James Show, let's talk about the media here. We were making fun of them to begin the show because Rachel Maddow was marking Trump's first 100 days by saying everyone hates everything he's done. Everyone agrees that everything he's done is awful, whether it's immigration, whether it's the economy, whether it's tariffs, whether it's his breath. Everyone hates everything about him. Not a believable story. On the other side of the aisle, I'm sure you can find some sycophants that'll say everything he's done is awesome. We had a good little rundown here on the nuance, the truth, which is going to be somewhere in the middle. But isn't it disappointing just how awful the media is? Now, I would submit to you that it's always been this awful. And I hear from people every year that I do talk radio, new people call in, and they're like, man, the media's just gotten so bad. No, you just started paying attention. The media has always been this bad. The media was this bad 10 years ago. The media was this bad 20 years ago. The media was this bad 50 years ago. The media was this bad when there was literally Hitler. You know how everything's literally Hitler now? Trump's literally Hitler. You're literally Hitler. Garrett over there on the board's literally Hitler. We're all literally Hitler. When Hitler was actually around, they were saying nice things about him. Walter Duranty, from the New York Times, is going overseas and being a guest of the Stalin Empire and saying, oh, this Hitler guy, he actually seems a lot more tame and calmed down now that he got out of prison. How did that work out? Oh, no, there's not a bunch of starving Ukrainians in the Holodomor. There's no famine over here. Total lies. They've always been this terrible. Now, we have seen some especially terrible reporting go on, not just in COVID, because COVID was real serious, and we're talking about dying grandmas and preventing people from going to funerals and whatnot. But on the lighter note, what we saw last year, right at this time, was so awful. Remember, you were being told this time last year that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. Not only is he good enough to run for president again, sharp as a tack. This Biden is the best Biden you've ever seen. And they were just 2 months away from kicking him out for being a human Roomba. Well, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Sunday, not attended by President Trump, they like to give themselves awards. The press corps likes to give themselves, oh, no, you're the best. No, you're the smartest. No, you do the best reporting. But it's a 100% hacky institution, so there's no surprise when the guy who gets up and gets the award for best journalism for covering Biden's mental decline, and he wasn't on top of it like we were. Listen to a little part of his speech where he tries to sort of gaslight you into thinking, no. The media wasn't lying to you this time last year. They were just fooled by the very clever cover-up of the Biden team. Really.
One serious note. To my bones, I believe that reporting and the White House Correspondents Association is as necessary as ever.
Okay, first off, that's a lie. It's so unnecessary that if it stopped existing and everyone in that room lost their job right now, the reporting tomorrow on the condition of the presidency would improve. And you know it.
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception.
Oh, can you believe that? Even Team Blue White Houses are not completely honest at all time. Well, duh, we all knew that. And you, sir, were not duped by the cover-up. You were part of the cover-up. To act like you saw what the rest of us saw and you came across with the honest opinion of, no, he's mentally fit. All these other people that are making fun of him and questioning it and putting together montages, what were you called? They were all called cheap fakes. I remember that. You remember cheap fakes? That was something that they tried to catch on for about 90 days until that fateful debate last June. Remember, this hasn't even been a year ago, and all these people were lying to us. No. You weren't duped. You were the one participating in the cover-up. We're all writing parody songs about him. We're all making memes. It was the number one joke cycle for the last 4 years is President Biden's mental condition. In fact, this is what we were saying when he was going through the election process in 2020. So to act like, oh, none of us could see through this very clever duping mechanism. No, I'm not buying that for a second, sir. We continue with Alex Thompson. Or we try to continue.
But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story.
No, you didn't.
And some people trust us less because of it.
We should. Look, either you are so slow, your mental capacity is so diminished and dismal that you saw the same behavior you saw and it didn't dawn on you that maybe this guy has lost a few steps over the years. So you're either that dumb or you were a willing dupe, which also means you've got to be really dumb. Either one of these options means you're either dishonest or dumb or both. But does anyone buy this? Do you buy this? Do you think the media was duped? Do you think they were tricked by the clever guy who doesn't even know where the exit door is? Or are they lying to you now to try and save their credibility? Because I think it's obvious. They're lying to you now to try and save their credibility. And you know what? Some of your lefty friends are doing it. It's not just necessarily people at the Washington Post that are doing it. It might be your next door neighbor. It might be one of your coworkers. It might be your niece with the funny haircut. Were they duped or are they lying? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. The media is trying to rewrite the recent history because up until last year, they were lying to you about a lot of things and they're being exposed. Number one, this all got kicked off because the guy who won the award from the White House Correspondents' Dinner for the reporting of the year, whatever, Alex Thompson, went up there and gave this crazy speech. I mean, it's total gaslighting, just revision of history. It's what gaslighting means, really. Where, oh my goodness, can you believe we were duped so bad by the Biden administration? No, sir, you weren't duped. You were part of the cover-up. You were one of the liars. Here, listen to this other clip from the speech.
But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story. And some people trust us less because of it.
They should.
We bear some responsibility.
All of it.
For faith in the media being at such lows.
No, you deserve all the responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows, and you're still not telling the truth about yourself while you're saying we need to tell the truth about ourselves. Look, aside from him not being sharp as a tack, which I'm sure you've heard that montage 10 times. Remember this time last year, this was put together by, I think it was Grabian again, where the media was saying Biden can't close the border. Now, we know a year later that when the monthly crossings for last month, for March, went down from 300,000 before Trump got in office in 1 month to 7,000 in 1 month without anything done by Congress or any outside powers, just the actions of the president himself. We all know now this is another lie that they were telling just this time last year, that Biden can't close the border on his own. The idea that he could just close the border, we all know that's not true.
Republicans keep saying Biden doesn't need Congress. He can stop what's happening at the border all by himself. Can you fact check that for us? Because we here all know that's not true.
Republicans have been saying, largely wrongly, right? Because saying that the president can close the border unilaterally on his own. The president actually doesn't have the authority under law to do that.
There's only so much President Biden can do with executive action, and he did try to do whatever he could.
Oh, sure he did. Sure he did. So either they're dupes or they're liars. Which is it? 800-288-9227. I think it's pretty obvious they're liars. This is Michael in Woodville. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Michael?
I think people need to start thinking that Biden didn't have anything to do with anything. It was Obama's administration 2.0.
I hear a lot of people say that, but also remember when Obama was in power, that's what people were saying about Obama. He's not really in power. He is just the figurehead that the puppet masters have installed there.
Well, that's called the deep state, isn't it?
There you go. But that means that Obama's not the puppet master now. That means there is an entrenched bureaucracy, a machine that remains behind the scene no matter who the front figure is. So I think you're giving Obama too much credit. He was little more than the current puppet for 8 years for the machine that was there before him and stayed after him.
Yeah, you're right about that. But the media swooned over Obama, and nobody will talk about him because, I don't know, it's like they're afraid to say anything about him.
About who, Obama?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we say a ton, but don't ever expect ABC, NBC, CBS. Look, that's the whole point that we're talking about this, is they're not even admitting that they're biased. They're not even admitting that they get all these very important top line stories wrong. You know, it's not like they got it wrong, like who is going to win the Super Bowl. This is pretty verifiable stuff. Biden was not mentally capable to be a president again. Apparently, the president can close the border without significant action from Congress. This was all in his control. Jussie Smollett was not a victim of a hate crime. That was Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, it's almost every big story that has any sort of political overlap that gets wrong. Like almost every story. Steve Granberry, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
Yes, sir. You know, really all we have to do is nothing, absolutely nothing. Let those people try to save face like they do every time, like they have always done since the beginning of the Democrat Party. They tell them themselves. All we have to do is report the facts and let them talk. It's kind of like Hillary Clinton. She opens her mouth, a lie comes out. It's that simple. So,
Well, let me tell you my problem with that, Stephen Granberry. I don't want to be proven right 5-10 years later, because in the meantime, there's a bunch of dumb people out there, or people who are just easily influenced, who don't dig deep into the news or headlines or whatever, and they just see that all their friends seem to agree, and all the people on TV seem to agree, and my favorite actors seem to agree, and my favorite musicians seem to agree, and my college professors all seem to agree that Democrats are the good people and Republicans are the bad people. So they'll just go with that. We can't live like that. We have run ourselves into $38 trillion in debt, waiting to be proven right 5 to 10 years later. In the meantime, if we don't do something about it now, we're going to get clocked in the midterms, and our only success will be this small little 18-month run.
That is true, but when I say all we have to do is nothing, what I mean is if we continue to report the facts like we do, and we stay on top of everything, then they're going to get hammered come voting time, because the truth will always come out.
Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped on you a little too soon. You're absolutely right, Steve.
Okay.
And Steve, I think what we need to be encouraging other Steves and other people out there who are listening is, don't discount the power that you have. If you're like, oh, well, I only have like 900 followers on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, well, that's something, but also work that up. Get a few thousand followers. Be your own little brand. And if we have 1,000, 10,000 small little brands like you, you are going to have far more influence than Rachel Maddow has. Is that what you're getting at, Steve?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And man, we got them on the decline right now. We cannot take our foot off their throat at all, because we are way up on top of it. They cannot get away with anything. And as long as we stay on top of that and report the facts and don't ever let them get away with anything, then they'll stay down until they see that they're crushing themselves. They're cutting their own throat at every turn.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Steve and Granbury. Let's do Martin in Euless. Is the media, were they duped or were they lying to us, Martin?
If you were duped by Joe Biden, your competency to vote must seriously be questioned. And if you're a journalist, you should be sued for journalistic malpractice and charged with election interference.
Well, it seems really impossible that me, who just spent the weekend playing on a bunch of round hay bales with my kids, can be more informed about the president than the people in the White House press pool. That's just not a believable line that they were telling us 2 days ago at the White House Correspondents' Center. Hey, we've got to really buck up and, admit that we were duped. No, this was a straight up participatory cover up on the part of the media. And I don't understand how these people still keep their jobs. ABC, NBC, CBS, you're shameless. We know what MSNBC is. We know what CNN is. But the rest of you, you just need to admit it. You're just the same partisan political hacks as MSNBC.
I don't know how they can look the American people straight in the eye. I don't know how they can look at themselves in the mirror.
They're narcissists. They're incapable of self-criticism. Either that or they're window-licking levels of stupid, and I don't believe that. I don't believe they're that dumb. I think that maybe they think they're actually fighting Hitler, or they're just saying what all the people are saying around them so they can continue to have White House access and go to the cool parties like the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It served them well this far, just being the repetitive automaton that follows the talking points. It's got them all the way to the White House president's press pool. So it's not a complete loser in a career sense. It's just, when's the rest of America going to hold them accountable? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we have Carolyn Levitt that's going to spell out $5 trillion in investments under Trump. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. You know, one of the reasons why we had such a great turnout at WeatherCon and why we have such great ratings at WBAP, we have such a great brand and listening audience, is that you heard what the other side was saying all last year, and you heard what we were saying last year. Who turned out to be correct? Was Joe Biden fit to run for president again? Because they were telling you this time last year he was sharp as a tack. I and other people on WBAP were saying this guy's lost a step and he doesn't need to be anywhere near the Oval Office for another 4 years. Who turned out to be right? A year ago, I played you the montage in the last segment. The media was telling you that, well, you can't blame the president for all the illegals crossing the border. He can't do anything by himself. He needs an act of Congress. That's just not how it works. Everyone agrees. Everyone knows it. We know it's a lie. Can you fact check it? Because it's clearly not true. And then here we are. No great action done by Congress. All we've done is change presidents. And it went from 300,000 illegal crossings in 1 month to 7,000. So there's another big lie. And it just repeats itself over and over and over. Well, how do they try and maintain credibility? Their latest attempt, Alex Thompson, when he won the White House Correspondents' Dinner Award for hacky journalism or something, was saying, no. We weren't lying to you. We were duped. Who is buying that? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. This is Randy in Frisco. You're on WBAP. What do you think, Randy?
So here's what I think. I got a few things to say about this. So duped, no. Lying, no. Agents of propaganda, 100%.
Well, how is that different than lying?
So they are agents of propaganda. That's the issue. To them, it's not lying because they've been given information that they're to spread to the U.S. public. So the situation is back in July 2nd of 2013, Congress passed the modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act. And the Smith-Mundt Act was like for the Agency of Global Media. What they did is they allowed the Agency of Global Media, which wasn't touched by DOJ. I haven't seen Trump do anything about this. It allows them to push information and narratives to the United States public. And the reason why they're able to get away with it is because part of it is that it says specifically on their website, can the U.S. AGM focus its broadcasting on the United States? It also says, how do you know that what the information that they're making available is actually good information? And they say the reason why you know that this is good information is because from the New York Times, CNN, and that's why Perkins Coie and the whole thing that was involved with Hillary Clinton and the Russia hoax went through that channel so that they could use this act to propagate it. Whenever all of those people that had all their security clearances came out and said that this is Russia disinformation about Hunter Biden's laptop, the reason why it had to go through the way that it did so they could push the narrative through CNN and everywhere else is because of this act. And the thing that nothing's being done about it, the biggest problem I have right now with Congress is the Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, but they're doing jack nothing up there. That was what ticks me off.
I don't think you need to focus on that act because they were just absolutely deplorable, dishonest hacks before that change happened. And I don't mean like the day before. I mean for decades before. They've always been this hacky your entire life. So even if we repeal that act or change it however you see fit, Randy, I don't see how that fixes the problem.
One of the best things I heard today on a TikTok video of a lady that was part of the walk away movement, walk away from being Democrats.
Right.
What she said is the general way of life in America is Democrat. That's the general what you receive on a day-to-day basis. The people that you interact with, where you go to get your media and all that kind of stuff. What is hard for people is that in order to be informed and in order to move, you have to help plant seeds as informed individuals as we are, and then they have to understand that it's a chore, it's a job to be well informed and to know what's going on and to not be lied to, because you have to DYOR, do your own research on everything.
You know, I
can't
feel
just give it like carte blanche.
I feel like you have the experience of someone who lives in a big city, because out in the country, the life is not like what you described, where things are just Democrat and the Democrat thought process reigns supreme, and we're all just kind of living under that shell. Because out in, like, if you're driving 2 hours in any direction, like where I'm from, what is on TV and what is in your real world are two completely different things. And so you never really pay a whole lot of attention to what's on TV, because when they talk about, oh, there was murders and the streets are flowing with blood. Well, not in my town. I live in Bugtussle. We don't have murders. We don't have car thefts. We don't have people who are getting stabbed at track meets or some of the other like homeless problems. And like when there was a BLM riot, you think there was a BLM riot in Bugtussle? You think there's a branch of Antifa in Bugtussle? Do you think we have ever had to deal with any kind of riot or people blocking a highway, or if we had airports out there, airports? No, it's so I think what you're describing is really just a problem with people who live in big metropolitan areas.
And that was her perspective from a lady that was in the industry living in LA. She's like, living in LA, this is what I've experienced in my life. Me growing up in Lawton, Oklahoma, the third largest state in Oklahoma, I did deal with some of the turmoil of, the high murder rates and whatnot when I was growing up, but it wasn't based on social economic strife. It was based more on, gang related and other stuff like that. So yeah I've been done. But the thing is, growing up, being a Democrat as I was growing up, that's what really boggled my mind whenever I saw the 2020 election and the 2024 election, I believe, is that every single solitary county in Oklahoma voted for Trump, even though a lot of those Oklahoman counties are Democrat, because in their mind, they're old school Democrat, not understanding that things have shifted so hard to them being anti free speech and everything else that has been brought to light. And I didn't know.
Okay, real quick.
That they were the party of.
Listen, I'm a little over time. So can you tell me in like 20, maybe 30 seconds top, what changed your mind from being a Democrat to Team Red?
I became a father of 5, became a single parent, saw for 100% whenever I was trying to be the sole caregiver of my 3 kids, how the court treated me differently than my ex-wife, even though, she had left us.
Oh, so you had systemic discrimination against you based on immutable traits. Gee, I wonder what that's like. Thank you very much. That's Randy in Frisco. I'm James Parker. Coming up next, I'll tell you about the stories from WeatherCon on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Thank you to everyone who came out to WeatherCon. And when we were trying to guess, it was probably around, 1,000 people? It's hard to tell because it was an event that happened on Saturday for 4 hours, and a bunch of people came and left and came and left and came and left. But I think the unofficial count is somewhere around 800 to 1,200 people went through. And I think they all got a pretty good deal there. Number one, because it was free. And that's thanks to, what of no cost. Just the cost was covered by Blue Ribbon Roofing and the Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm. So a round of applause for the two event sponsors. But at WeatherCon, also a big thank you to all the presentations that were done. The people that had the booths up for the kids, the face painters, the people that were taking over the arts and crafts tables for the kiddos. Thank you. That's amazing. And as a parent, I'm sure they were all super duper grateful because it's so hard to find something cool to do for kids that's not either super expensive or super dumb. There's an educational aspect there. And so what a relief it was for some families to actually be able to foster that and encourage that in their kids. And you made it happen. I didn't make that happen. I didn't plan this together and put it together. I didn't call the vendors. I didn't set up the tables. I didn't put up the signage. I didn't make the commercials to promote it. I just showed up. So a big thank you to all of our staff who put it together. We have a killer promotions team. But also, big thank you to Brad Barton and Fox 4's chief meteorologist, Dan Henry. Also, thank you to the people that were there from the National Weather Service. What was it? Michelle Dunn, wasn't that her name? Cool presentation from her as well. And look, it's still weird for me that I am a colleague of Brad Barton and Hal J, because I am like you. And this is an odd situation to be in, whether you're on radio or TV. It is super duper rare for a guy to be on a local station who's actually from the coverage area of the station, who's actually a local guy. I knew Hal J and Brad Barton not before I started working here, before I started working in radio, period. I just assumed they came with the radio. So it's still weird for me to say, oh yeah, Hal J, I work with him. Oh. So that's kind of weird. But it feels less weird that this year compared to last year, I had a lot more people coming up wanting to meet me, which makes sense. I'd only been on the air for about 4 months when we had it last year. Now I've been on the air for a year and 4 months. So I was hoping there'd be a little more interest in old Parker here. And there was. And, I know I sound like a pompous butthead sometimes, but I have a fragile ego as well. And you made me feel better. One of the cool parts was the Storm Chaser vehicles. They seem to get upgraded from year to year. And I got a good chance to take a look at a Storm Chaser vehicle, and one of the ones that there's a guy who works part-time here who also does that on the side. On the truck that he had outfitted for it, on the SUV, I should say, that he had outfitted for it, it looked like a matte paint job, but when you got closer, it was really rough. It turns out it was bed liner. You know the spray-in bed liner? If you put that on the outside of your car, it doesn't really look that pretty. It looks kind of questionable. It looks like your car's kind of fuzzy. But he says that's excellent for preventing dents from hail. Dude, that round of applause, that's genius. I hadn't even thought of that. So if you have bed liner on the outside of your car, it doesn't make it 100% hail proof, but it makes it pretty much hail proof. And I was like, cool. Well, what'd you put on the windows? So when hail's coming and you don't dent the car, what about the windows? What do you do to keep them from breaking? He said, well, nothing. We just replace them when they break. Thought that was funny. Also, what's new about Storm Chaser vehicles now as compared to the past, when you have the mounted computers on the inside of the cab, now there was 2 of them and they were both tablets. So they don't take up hardly any room. And now you have what looks like almost a spaceship going on inside, because you have like 4 different screens, because there's already one with the car. There's the laptop that the guy has, but 2 mounted tablets were there too. So what are we in, the Starship Enterprise now? But they have such amazing tools at their disposal, because on the top of the car was a Starlink receiver. So they have constant internet connection, even when they go out in the middle of nowhere and they can't bounce it off a cell tower. And so they're able to run like real-time programs on those tablets with radar and with whatever detection instruments that they're picking up stuff with. So, I mean, that was just the coolest, most sciencey, scientific stuff that we had there. So that was great. Also, we had a bunch of great giveaways. There were people who would show up and they would go through all the vendors' booth and they would get a bag and they would leave with a giant bag just stuff full of goodies. And when I say goodies, it wasn't just like candies and pens and a couple of rulers. And they're like Mullen & Mullen had cool hats, like must have been expensive hats. The ones with like the flat bill and the sticker on the front and then the mesh back, but it's like 3 different colors. It has the super thick embroidery on it. They had that. They had the big bucket hats. So if you want to look like Gilligan while you're mowing the lawn, that was cool. Blue Ribbon Roofing had a bunch of good handouts too. So a lot of people were just loaded down with loot by the time they got out of there. But I think pretty much everyone had a good time. Myself included. John, Tish, and Trevor were there from Blue Ribbon Roofing, so I got to meet the whole family behind the family business. And now I will be going to some golf tournament that they're sponsoring next month, so we can look forward to that remote experience. But if you didn't get to make it out, try and make it out next year. It's totally worth the effort. If it fits into your schedule, it doesn't cost anything, and it'll be really cool to actually shake your hand and you can see me and judge me based on my appearance. But thank you, everybody, for an awesome WeatherCon. That was fantastic. It's going to do it for the James Show. Stick around. Mark Levin is coming up next, and I can go ahead and preview what we're going to do on every show for the rest of the week. We're going to spend a little bit of time each show talking about some of these local elections that are happening Saturday, because people are reaching out to me and saying, I haven't heard a whole lot about this, and I don't know what's on the ballot or who to vote for. Or I don't have any idea what's going on, and no one's talking about it. Well, stick around for the rest of the week. We'll be talking about it on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.